Perfect. Right. Afternoon. How are we?
Afternoon. How are you?
All good.
Yeah,
All
good. How are
Yeah.
you?
Enjoying this little bit of sunshine that we're having, this
Ex-
warmer weather. Very nice.
Still a little bit chilly,
Yeah.
it's dry and
And it,
work and we're not moaning that it's too hot. So
no, it's comfortable enough for everything that we need to do.
exactly that.
Yeah,
Exactly that.
yeah. So yeah, and I know it's been a while since we've done an episode again. We've all been very, very busy with different bits and pieces. So we'll crack on.
Yeah. Apologies, everybody. We are back and we
We're
are
all
trying
busy. We're all busy, and I'd
to
rather be busy.
very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is busy though. This is good busy. And there are more listeners out there than I gave credit for, because people are missing us. So that's really nice.
I've had lots of comments about when we were, asking us to get back onto it and stuff. So we'll try as best we can to get some regularity to it.
Exactly. So what we're going to talk about today then, Stuart?
I just thought we'd broach the subject a little bit about running orders and queuing at shows. A couple of little conversations I've had recently with people and a few incidents that I've seen and bits and pieces at shows. And it's basically what seems to be there's no point to our running orders at the moment. Now I don't know whether that's since COVID or whether the classes are smaller at shows now, so people don't seem to worry.
People sometimes get into habits, don't they? So I know one of the bad habits that people get into, particularly with the first class of the day, is not if you've got like a 1 to 20 running order and kind of not being at the ring. So many times you see rings empty, and then suddenly you hear that people are calling to the end because they've got nobody in the queue, and then the queue kind of massively grows, doesn't it?
Yeah. I suppose you get the swings and roundabouts of obviously having nobody at the ring at all, or you've got a queue of 20 or 25 dogs, waiting for their turn, which I think the first one, no dogs at the queue, I think is there a way, or is there a rule that we can have where judges or ring managers can say that if you're in 1 to 20, unless you've got a valid reason, or that clashes of rings or ring partying or something, if you haven't run within the first 30 minutes and you're in running order 1 to 20, can you be eliminated for that?
Oh, that'd be a good one, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you can be. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know.
There is no rule that says that, and obviously you can mark in late, but it's like, almost, you're right, what is the point of having a running order if people don't stick to it? And it does work both ways, and I've had it in my favour and not in my favour, but you have to feel kind of quite sorry for organisers.
I mean and you got you got your ring managers and your callers and all the bits and pieces that aren't getting paid for what they're doing, and they're just trying to help and do the best they can, but they've got a queue to manage. And I get it when it's warm, you want to get in and get your runs done, or you want to wait a little bit longer, you don't want to be queuing, or if it's raining, obviously you're hiding in your van or your caravan and you don't want to get out there until you see a clear space where you can get a run in straight away without
or you're waiting to go home and have a running order of 75 or something like that, time jumping,
and you're last in the you're last in the class and all that sort of stuff.
I bet the analysis would be, if you actually sit down and analyze this, the early classes of the day, you're probably getting more people that are not turning up in the early running orders, and then in the last classes of the day you get people that are turning up that want to go home, so that they shouldn't be running. I bet that's kind of how the analysis would go.
But I suppose that we've all got to look at it like we've been in it, well, most of us have been in it for long enough now that it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Now I know that I've left shows on a Sunday or whatever, towed off my caravan, missing 2 classes, but because the running orders are late, or I'm late on in that running order, and I've got to get the caravan into storage or whatever that is. So I've opted to go, you know what, I'll miss those runs, whereas I quite could have easily gone up and I get in early.
Yeah, so what is the point of a running order? The point of a running order basically is to average out the class, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, to make
we're
it,
not talking about
yeah, to make it
we're
run
not talking about
smoothly as
sorry,
possible.
Stuart.
All right.
There's a slight delay. We're not talking about champ because obviously that's strict running order,
Yeah,
which actually I think works very, very well. But as you say, it's to make the class run smoothly and so that they have average amount of people in the
yeah,
queues,
yeah.
so that you don't have a massive amount of people. So if we're all ignoring them, do we do away with them or do they need to stay?
I think there needs to be either an update or maybe just a sort of refresh of the rules so everybody knows what the idea is, because some people might not actually know what their running orders are for. You know, then
Yeah.
especially the newbies, they might know they get a number, but they don't know what it means necessarily unless they've been told that. But also, I think some of us, you know, me included, we do take advantage sometimes where you may be number 74 and you walk past the ring and there's nobody in the queue and you go, oh, I might just jump in and run my dog
I've
down.
asked the situation, you know, if there's no, it's particularly first thing in the day, I'm always really eager to just get running and just
Yeah,
you know, get moving. If I'm in the first class of the day, you know, I will generally ask the question, if you've got nobody in the queue, are you taking any running order? But is that in itself putting pressure amongst the ring party? Should I just shut up and just leave them to
and
do their
wait.
job?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, and wait. I think there should be. I'm not sure whether there should be some sort of. Definitely should be a. Should there be some sort of penalty for the first 20 dogs if you're not running? You know, if you haven't run in the first half an hour. You know, should there be something there to give them a little bit of a.
It would, I think it would, I mean, whether you would actually ever be able to enforce it or whether the judges would want to enforce it, you know, I think it would be hard to enforce.
Yeah,
But that said, I think it's a good thing. I'm really hesitant. The reason I'm hesitating here is I went to a non-agility event at the weekend,
yeah,
and it was a huge event. And I actually realised there was a couple of really nasty incidents. And you actually we sat there talking about show organisers, and
yeah,
most of the people that put on events are volunteers. In fact, they are all volunteers, aren't
yeah,
they? We're all
yeah,
doing the best that we possibly can. So we all
yeah.
have opinions on what should happen. So that's the reason that I'm being a little bit hesitant, is because the onus always seems to be on the show organisers, on the judges, on the ring
Yeah.
manager. Well, actually, no. I would say 99% of people, maybe 95% of people, know what a running order is all about.
Yeah, and if you and like if you're turning up a queue, dogs in the queue already, and they're calling to 20 for whatever reason, and you're number 56, wouldn't you just walk away from that queue?
Yeah,
You know,
definitely. Yeah, I've done that.
instead of just going, well, I'm here now, I might as well wait for a minute, and then like you know, a recent event that we've been to, I counted 25 dogs in the queue.
And we're becoming to the hopefully the hotter part of the year,
Yeah,
aren't we? Is
so 25 dogs in the queue, and that's a minimum of 30 minutes waiting.
Yeah, yeah.
Dog standing outside for 30 minutes in whatever the weather is, with all of those different the atmosphere, with all the different stresses and all the triggers and stuff that are going on and all the bits and pieces going with it before you even step in the ring.
Yeah. So
And then I
maybe,
also look like I'm then also missing my downtime as well, and the dog's
yeah.
downtime.
I
You
was
know,
going to say maybe the onus is on the handler actually taking responsibility for their dogs. You're right, downtime, because the environment of being out of the house generally tires dogs out more
yeah,
than any ordinary situation, doesn't it? And you
yeah,
know, I know my dogs on a Monday, they always have the day off. Sometimes I might sort of just give them a quick walk just to loosen them off, but you know, generally they'll have a Monday off because they're
yeah,
exhausted.
yeah. So so it was just a case of, like I say, just talking through the running orders and the queuing and what makes people stand in the queue for so long or think that's okay or not. or not turn up for their runs when they should be. You know what? There's got to be a solution to it somewhere. Maybe it's just, you know, a bit of a refresh, maybe poking everybody and go, right, just to let you know, just to remind you that the running orders are there for.
We need somebody to put something on agility nets, don't we? Like,
Yeah.
this is this is your running order number. Your running order is there to help make the show run freely.
And I get it if you got some of the shows, obviously some of the run classes are smaller now, so there's only like 15 or 20 dogs in it or whatever there may be. So I can sort of get that. But you go, well, I might as well just join the queue anyway. I'm going to do that. But like the event we were at, they had 100 odd dogs in the class.
And some ring managers are very different, aren't they? So I know when I've ring managed, you know, if I haven't got people in the queue and somebody comes up to me and says, I'm running order so and so, can I run? And there's 5, 6 people in the queue, then I would always say yes, always, because, you know, the onus for me when I'm ring managing is that the judge is my responsibility, so it's up to me to make sure that they get good response, you know, they get good refreshments, they're looked after, they're not standing out there for hours, and we're keeping the ring running as efficiently as we possibly can. So as you say, you know, the ridiculous idea of having 25 people queuing is horrendous.
But then is that also maybe lack of experience from the ring manager or the show or the caller or whatever, where they didn't quite understand, you know, they haven't been briefed properly, maybe?
So, with the exception of when I'm going to be queuing for grade 1 to 2s, which I'm starting this weekend with Nairobi, we're on experienced rings, so we are with people that should know better.
Yeah.
And generally the higher grades, are they generally managed? Maybe that's wrong. And say they're generally managed by more experienced people, aren't they? But maybe that's wrong. Maybe I'm wrong there.
Yeah, I don't actually know. I think it's a bit of mix, to be fair. I think there's a handful on either side, I think. But it just, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And on the flip side of it, I've also seen somebody that is a ring manager and wants to run the 20 and then 20 to 30, then 30 to 40, which is the correct way to do it.
Yeah.
I bet that because people don't take responsibility across the board, that ring would be slower to run than somebody that accepts, you know, people outside of their running.
There's got to be, I suppose there's got to be some sort of common sense in there at some point. You know, you got, like you say, if you've only got 4 or 5 dogs in the queue and somebody's right there with their dog now, you know, you give that a go. But if you've got more than 10 dogs in the queue, then for me it's a case of like, I'm sorry, but you'll have to come back a little bit later.
It's going to have an effect on your own run, isn't it? You know, on the quality of the run. If the dog's been queuing there for ages,
yeah, I mean, I
queuing my dogs.
I would never. Yeah, I mean, I think queuing at agility is the worst place to be for me ever. So I don't know why anybody would want to stand in a queue for 25, 30 minutes, you know, waiting for you know, and it's close proximity as well. Normally you're queuing in between 2 rings or, you know, across the front of a ring somewhere where there's lots of traffic and dogs and all the bits and pieces. So again, unless you've got a really, really chilled out dog there, then even that's going to be, you know, more stressful for you and the dog and the dogs around you as well. But yeah, I think handlers need to have take a little bit of responsibility for that and be a bit more sort of proactive when they're looking at a queue. I think, you know what, it's 20 odd dogs long. I think I might walk away from a minute.
Yeah. So maybe it's everybody across the board taking responsibility, isn't it? Right, as you say, right down from the callers, right down.
I've done it before, and I've got a lower running order, for instance, and I've turned up, and there might be like 10 or 15 dogs in the queue, and I go, right, I'll pop back a little bit later on, even though I'm early. I'm not going to stand in that queue. I go back, and it might end up that I end up running at the end.
Yeah, so if you made that decision and you just put a rule in place, then you're going to get eliminated.
Exactly. but then you wouldn't have, in theory, 20 odd dogs in a queue at that point.
No, no. It is an interesting one, Stuart, definitely, because none of us want to see horrendous queues anywhere. It's just not acceptable for us, the dogs, the ring party, anybody.
No.
Accidents will happen as well, so you're more likely to have more accidents, aren't you?
Yeah. And you know, dogs get stressed, we get switched off, we get, you know, there's all those bits and pieces that go on there as well. It would be interesting to figure out, you know, how much of an impact
Perhaps
standing.
there's a university student out there that's studying. I don't even know what psychology.
So how long, you know, how long in the queue does it take before that completely affects your
your dog? Yeah, definitely.
So what's the ultimate time for queuing? You know, how long should you be for? There has got to be an element of queuing, because I like, with rigs, I like to see 3 or 4 dogs running.
Yeah, but I think a maximum of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Maximum.
So I like to get rigs into a queue and give him 3 or 4 dogs to watch, and you know, and we get into that sort of atmosphere, you know, soak in a little bit of the atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely.
But
That's
I know for him and for me, any more than 10 or 15 minutes, I'll be stressed out by the time I got there anyway.
Yeah, I end up talking myself out of things as well, or if
and then something happens that you're not really involved in, but then you get involved in it because you're a bit bored because you've been in a queue, and then just, you know, all of those things that,
and then you've got irritated, and
you know, and somebody's talking to you and then you lose concentration, and you know,
you end up having chit-chat conversations. And I know Nairobi is particularly friendly with other dogs, so I'm working her for like 20 minutes. I got a couple of cues wrong. It was interesting. It was UKA shows, and it was a couple of UKA shows have really picked up, and I'm so happy for them. And they were really, really busy classes. There was sort of over 50, 60 dogs in the classes. I got it wrong. I got it completely wrong. UKA particularly, I'm bad at running order because I'm used to smaller classes. So, but I got it completely wrong. And then I ended up training her outside the ring just to keep occupied. And then you take the lead off, and suddenly you stop training. So they're like, oh, we're finished. No, actually, we haven't even flipping started.
UKA is a little bit harder as well, isn't it? Because you haven't got a specific running order as such, have you? Apart from the pre-entries.
Yeah, exactly that.
So when you're a late entry, it's even harder to manage where you are in the queue, really.
Yeah.
But so then I suppose that does then become yours and the ring manager's responsibility between you to figure out what's best, I suppose.
With the queue, to determine with the queues. Generally, if I think I'm going to get it wrong, I'm marking late. Because I think it's the safest way of not missing your run. But then that can be a pain in the butt if you suddenly hear your name called out. You know, that's
and you know, and if you've got 2 or 3 rings running at one, you know, clashing, you've got a couple of runs, one's over there, one's over there. You know, which queue do you join? You know, how do you do that? And I suppose with multiple dogs as well, if you've got 1 or 2 dogs, you have to make sure you're running those in order, especially at Kennel Club, they have to be ran in running order. Which again, you know, if you've got 1 over there and 1 here, and you've got 2 in the same class, it's quite difficult to manage. But in those situations, I think again, if we
speak, I wonder why. Sorry, Stuart, I've interrupted you there. I wonder why we couldn't do. I mean, you can't do it at UKA obviously because of the late entries, but at Kennel Club, why we couldn't run strict running order?
I think, like you say, I think there's a time constraint to that, isn't there? Because we want a steady flow.
But it works in the champ ring. But then I guess if you've got
then they manage the champ ring is managed. No, this sounds really bad, but the champ ring is managed differently, isn't it?
It's micromanaged, definitely. It's micromanaged,
Even if when you're in champing, even if you know, you've always got somebody telling you who's in front of you, you know, how many dogs to go. So you're already processed through that.
Yeah, and I guess it would make it easier to miss classes if you had 2 or 3 rings that were running at the time, you couldn't run it.
So you'd still have your sort of late marking down as late for some people.
Yeah, cool. If it was down to me and you, we'd be revamping the whole system, wouldn't we?
I know, yeah. But there's got to be something in there. Maybe it's just
fine everybody from not running in their order.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily saying, right, you've got to run 1 to 20 and it's going to be 1 to 20 in that order. But if you're in the first 20 and you haven't run in the first half an hour, there's got to be something in there, you know. And also the other one, if they're calling, but if they're calling 1 to 20 and you're number 78, go away.
Yeah. So your bugbear is 78, it needs to go away. My bugbear is where is the first 1 to 20, and I'm going to let number 78 run because I haven't got 5 people in the queue.
Yeah.
We should all be starting. If they're calling 1 to 20 at 8:30, or invariably it's before that, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
so they call 1 to 20. That's almost maximum amount of queue. Straight away.
So, but like if you're like I'm the same when I'm walking the courses first. If I've got a class first thing in the morning, for instance, I walk the course when I get there, and I always try and make sure I've got plenty of time to sort everything out. And then if I know then I'm 1 to 20, I don't walk the course up until 8:30.
No, exactly.
I leave at 8:15, 20:8, leave the ring, go and get sorted, get my dog, walk back to the ring, and then hopefully I'm queuing. So then by the time the judge is ready to go at 8:30, there's a queue of 10 dogs.
And that's the way it should be, shouldn't it? Yeah, I generally, I mean, if they're running late, that's a, you know, an exception to the rule. But if the ring party are ready to go, they're ready to go at 8:30. My first job will be to go and walk my first ins. Yeah. I've got 2 or 3 first ins on Saturday, and I know that. So I'm going to have to get there really early, warm the dogs up. Before I go and walk my courses, then go and walk my course so that each dog, you know, is ready to go at 8:30.
Yeah. So
and then if there's somebody in the queue that's number 78, I'm going to say, go away.
Go away. Come back later. But yeah, I mean that's what we, you know, I think.
And then they can tell me go away when I'm at the end of the day saying, can I sneak in, please?
Can I sneak in? I want to go home. Yeah. Well, I've missed a couple of runs from late running orders where I've just decided not to run. Like, you know, we want
me too. I think if you've been there all weekends, I mean, I've got one. I've got on Saturday. I'm local, which is really unlike me. I'm less than an hour away from home, and there's a big gap in the middle of the day, and I've got a last in, and it's never going to be run, is it? It's never going to be.
No, so it's just one of those. But you know, you have to accept that. But when I look at it, for the amount of years that I've been doing agility, I've been number 1 and I've been 100. So, you know, it's not like I'm getting a special deal by having middle of the road running orders all of the time. You just have to make that effort to be there, unless you've got, you know, you've got multiple dogs, maybe multiple rings clashing, maybe, you know, then you've got a bit of a sort of leeway where you can come and mark as late if you need to, but at least let somebody know. That's the other part for me. Sometimes they don't mark down as late, they just sort of disappear and then roll up whenever they feel like it later on.
And then it becomes the ring party's fault, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know, the class is closed and you'll go, oh, I haven't run yet. Well, you were number 2, where have you been, you know? If we'd have known, we could have done something about it earlier, you know. Like, I always look, if I'm ring managing, I always look half an hour, 20 minutes, if the judge is right, okay, we're coming to the end now, got 20 minutes to go, I'll go down the list as quickly as I can and see if we've got any late entries that we haven't ticked off yet or something, and you can make that decision early on. But waiting till the end and then having nobody there and then somebody comes rolling across as you're putting the jump to another height, that's also a bit of a challenge, I suppose.
So basically what we're saying is everybody knows the rules. We need to try and stick by them. Otherwise, we're going to start a petition up and we're going to get you fines, and then the fine can go to Forever Agility.
Yeah, that's it. They have to put a fine into it. Yeah, absolutely. But first, if you're in 1 to 20 and you haven't got a valid reason, you haven't run in the first half an hour, got to be something done about that, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And don't pressurize the ring if you're not. And queues, watch your queuing this week.
Yeah, watch your queues. If you turn up at a queue and there's 10 dogs in it, walk away for a little bit, because that's a minimum of 10 minutes. A minimum.
Do the right thing by your dog.
Yeah, don't queue for 25 minutes, half an hour with your dog. Not like say now the summer's coming now and the weather's going to start to get warmer and you know,
Yeah, and
go and have
you
a
know,
coffee, go and have a coffee or an ice cream or something. You know, it's not a,
oh, if I did that, Stuart, I'd miss my run. I can't wind down that much. I can't.
you know, or go and chat to some friends, some, you know, go and have a catch up with somebody or somebody you haven't seen for a while. And
Oh, I have to get. I have my phone, and I'm sitting there like, right, okay, what are we going to do? Where am I? And then you're walking backwards and forward. I think one show I did something like 32,000 steps because couldn't trust the internet quite so much, and it's like, oh, no, you end up walking up and down, up and down, up and down. Never have to warm up.
Especially as some of the shows now aren't having tannoys either. There's not tannoys at some of the shows anymore, so you do have to rely a little bit more on your phone, or you know, or getting to the rings and looking yourself. So there's that, and you know, that's added pressure to us as well. But I think if you've got a running order and you know how it works, try and stick to that running order as best you can. And if you're going to be late, or if you're going to try and get in early, just speak to the ring manager properly, politely, and just say, right, this is a situation I'm in. Most likely everybody's going to go, that's fine, deal with it this way, deal with it that way, it's fine.
Yeah, I agree.
But don't just join a queue because everybody's queuing.
No,
I don't think so. Right, I think
we've wrapped it up before we get really grumpy.
yeah, absolutely. That was good. Right.
Right, it's nice to see you again, Stuart.
Yeah, see you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye.